Here we are, Thoughts in the Office, Redneck's Pride Outdoors. Yeah, I'm sitting along the Delaware River here, and I'm watching a few guys fishing. And I call it a privilege, I guess. I'm an outgoing guy, I guess, and I'm not afraid to talk to folks. So I always am able to, if you will, strike up conversations with folks in the outdoors. And in those conversations, I learn a lot. I watch people. I watch what they're doing. I see the people that are successful, and I see the people who are getting it done. And I strike up conversations, and I usually come out with a lot of good information to put up and to hear, to think about. And it's good for me, because in doing that, I can see so many different ways that people do things that work, that really, really work. You know, when you sit and you sit at one spot and you see an old boy catching some fish, and you see what he's doing, and then you go to another place and you see an old boy catching some fish, and you see that he's doing something totally different than the other 10 people that you've been watching. And I strike up the conversations. They don't tell you all. They don't tell you most. But I'm experienced enough to be able to talk to you. And see what you're saying without you saying it. Also experienced enough to know if you're a BSer or not. Anyway, getting back on it. The one thing that I see in all the guys that are successful, that are good, the one thing I see that they all have in common is they will not believe what somebody else is doing works. I get to laughing about it, because you take 10 fishermen doing 10 different things, all catching fish, and none of them will believe each other. Yet me, neutral, sitting back, watching, say, that works, that works, that works, that works, that works, that works. Now, what's that do for me? Gives me better understanding of what to do and how to do it. And when I understand what to do and how to do it, it takes me to the point to where I'm looking at, in this case, a fishing scent, and knowing how to make it work. How to make a fishing scent to work. You know, people hear me say, how do I learn to do something in the outdoors so I can be successful, catch, trap, whatever? And I say, do it not trying to catch or trap. Just do it to see what works. That doesn't make sense, because we as outdoorsmen, we have a goal. When we go out, we want to be successful. If I go fishing, I want to catch a fish. If I go hunting, I want to kill an animal. If I trap, I want to catch an animal. And when I don't, it's a failure. But if I go out in the woods and look for the animals I want to catch and see where they're going and what they're doing and how they're doing it, when it comes time for me to catch that animal, I'm ahead of the game. If I'm going hunting and I go out in the woods and I look for the animals to see where they're at and and where they're going and what they're doing when they're doing it, I'm ahead of the game. Fishing's hard, I'll give you that, because when you throw your line out, if you don't catch a fish, you're automatically saying it's not working. But the thing with fishing is fish are so, more than any other thing out there that we pursue as outdoorsmen, I think fish can be finicky or aggressive or neutral, positive, negative. Fish just fall into this world of so many different variables, so many different little things. In other words, you cannot make that fish bite that lure or bait or whatever. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. The best scenario of making a fish strike your lure is when they're protecting their bed. Otherwise, how do you make a fish do anything? If it's not hungry, it's not eating. If it's not protecting its bed, it's not territorial. It's not protecting. So how I overcome that is I purposely put myself into places that I just watch. I'm not fishing. I'm just watching people fish. Seeing what they do and how they do it. This is probably coming off really, really hard for a lot of people to bite. You know, I was just talking to an old boy, and the bite was off for him today, and we was talking about the bloodworms. We got talking about, you know, the bloodworms. Everybody's putting them in a bag. And I said to him, so what makes your bag of bloodworms any different than the bag of bloodworms the guy has 20 feet away from you? He just looked at me. Didn't say a word, he just looked at me. Then he said, you know, when the bloodworm becomes white, they throw them because there's no more blood in them. And I hear a lot of folks say that. But they take that worm that's white now, and in their mind, it's the blood that is the reason they're taking that bag of bloodworms. And I said to him, and he looked my age. Okay, I'm 65. He looked 65-ish, somewhere in there, a little bit older maybe. I said, well, you're old enough to understand, to remember what the old timers used to use. He looked at me and goes, no. I said, night crawlers for stripers. Night crawlers, and he looked at me and goes, night crawlers for stripers? No way. They don't have the blood in them. Well, that's the old boys I learned off of use night crawlers. And I didn't take it any further than that, thinking, okay, now how did the old boys back in the 40s and the 50s catch those stripers along the Delaware River and the Delaware Bay? There wasn't a big bait market like there is today. You couldn't just go out and buy bloodworms from Maine. How'd they catch them? Well, they didn't. Yeah, they did. They caught some good ones. And I said to him, You know what? Guys won't do it. But up here in the freshwater section of the Delaware River, I guarantee you, if guys would do it, if they took clams, put them in a bag, and fished them the same way, I guarantee you there'd be some stripers caught. Nah, ain't no clams up here. Yeah, but where's the striper coming from to go spawn? You know, I can honestly say I love learning this stuff more than I love doing this stuff. Does that make sense to you? I had my heyday back in my younger days. I had my time of bounty, if you will. Now I like instructing on it. Now I like telling somebody to do something. I had an old boy called me up the other day, and he had a little bit of a situation with a skunk, and asking me, what the heck do I do here? And I asked him a few little fine questions on, the situation, and he told me, and I told him what to do. I said, now it should work, but it might not either. So, in other words, it should work. You should be able to take care of this skunk and not spray. But skunks being skunks, you might stink tonight. I don't know. He got back to me and said it worked like a charm. I could be like every other old guy and just say, you're on your own, man. Struggle with it. I just talked to another guy about the bloodworms in a bag. And I said, why don't you take one drop of the scent that you got off of us, just one drop, and put it in your bag of worms. What's that going to do? It's going to make your bag get different than the guy there and the guy there. Anybody ever thought about taking a bloodworm, a night crawler, and a piece of chicken, and put it in the same bag and try it for stripers? Nah, it won't work. No blood after the bloodworm dries up. Why don't you put a chicken liver in there then? Why would you do that? Because just like in trapping, I teach 3 odors excites. Just like you watch a fat man in a smorgasbord with all that food in front of him, you see him just laughing, giggling, and just piling that plate up with everything is in front of him. Everything in front of him. Some of you that's more inquisitive might want to try that. Take a bloodworm, take a chicken liver, small piece of chicken, and a night crawler. Put it in the same bag. Toss it out there. See what happens. I'll leave it there. Thoughts from the Office, Redneck's Pride Outdoors.